I'm Heather from Here Booktubes, and today is long book recommendations. These are all romances. Specifically, I didn't include any of my fantasy books or things like that that are extra long. These are romance books. So, Shae from Shae Geeks Out recently did a vlog checking out my reading taste, and one of her observations was that I like short books, and generally speaking this is true. I will say I think last year I probably read more short books than I am currently because my reading is very fluid. It does not stay the same. It doesn't. But I know, like, last year, maybe even the year before, I was reading a lot of short books. But I also enjoy really long books. I just don't tend to mention how long they are. And when I'm recommending people books for a reading test vlog type thing, I usually don't do any long books because they're reading like 5 or 6 books that I picked. I want them to be short and easy to get through and not, really long projects, if that makes sense. So anyways, I don't think she was wrong, but I also don't think it was completely accurate. But she gave me the idea when she said that. She gave me the idea to recommend some long books because I've done many a novella recommendation video, and I've never done a long book recommendation video. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of people think that a romance shouldn't be longer than 350 pages max. Like, after that, there's just no reason to continue. And I can say that there are a lot of cases where I absolutely agree. There are many books that are too long that would be improved by being shortened. When I get a short book that's great, I don't wish it was longer. I'm happy. I like the length that they gave me. They gave me a good short book. Thank you. However, there are some books that I just don't want them to end. I don't want them to end. Keep it going. Keep writing. I will read another 300 pages of this goodness. Like, those books exist for me. And so I'm I'm excited to talk about these. So these are all romances over 500 pages long. In fact, my shortest book is 555 pages. When I tell you I do not want these books to end, I could read them for days upon days. Like, do I think that every single person is going to agree with me? No. If you like my reading taste, just know these books were ridiculously long, and I was there for every second, every page, every line. I was happy with it. I did not in any way feel like, wow, this would have been so greatly benefited if 150 pages had been edited out. And there are definitely books that I do feel that way about. So here we go. First of all, I don't know how many people know this, but Kristen Ashley is like my favorite romance author, and her books are incredibly long. Like, I think some of her shortest books are like 450, 60 pages. Like, that is a short book for her. So Amanda, my KA stan, if you're watching, I've got a couple Kristen Ashley books that I'm going to rave about, so shout out to you. So truly, I could give you 20, 25, 30. I don't think you all understand how much Kristen Ashley I've read. Kristen Ashley books that are long that I could recommend to you. So I picked and chose. Understand that when I was going through Goodreads and looking at my books by length of pages, there were about 20 more Kristen Ashleys. But I didn't want to just give you Kristen Ashley recommendations. I do have a couple. First one is Sweet Dreams, which is Colorado Mountain #2 by Kristen Ashley. This is my longest straight romance book, and it is 657 pages. So we have an older main character. I think she's in her 30s, maybe 40s, and she leaves her cheating husband, and she drives and she starts over, and she sees this bar alongside the road, and she decides to become a waitress for it. And she has a bad first impression, a hate to love relationship with the owner of the bar. They have a back and forth. He maybe makes some judgments that he should not have, and she makes friendships in this small town. She's not from a small town, I don't think, and she just kind of gets in. Now, Kristen Ashley has a lot of romantic suspense elements in her books. I don't remember what the conflicts were in this one. I know some of the conflicts in the series, but I often have trouble pinning down which... What is that word? It's like a word that can be used for orgasms or conflicts. what is that word? Climax. The climax of the story. I can't think of which books have which conflicts, so be aware of content warnings. There's probably kidnapping, there might be sexual assault or serial killer or serial rapist. Those are things that happen in like the series and stuff, but I'm not sure what happens in this book. So be aware that I'm sorry I can't give you specifics. It's been a minute since I read it. But listen, if you love alphas, alpha holes, if you love women who will stand up to their man, but also, you know, the thing about Kristen Ashley is her couples have conversations. They will tell each other what their line is, what matters to them, what bothers them, and the other person will listen, or it will be a conflict, right? Like, it's not just you're the alpha, so it's your way or the highway. It's no, this I'm okay with compromising on, and this means something to me. And if you care about me, then it's going to mean something to you too, and you're going to give this to me. Like, those conversations are so important for a couple, and Kristen Ashley gives you that. Now, I will say Kristen Ashley has a bit of description. And a lot of people skim the descriptions. I kind of skim the descriptions. I don't see things clearly in my mind when I read, so I think I read it differently than some people would, but just know that that's probably the number one reason. That and her alpha heroes are probably the two reasons why people don't like Kristen Ashley. But I am a stan. I have read so many of that woman's books, and there's only one that I actively disliked. The rest have all been hits for me. Speaking of, the next one is The Will, which is Magdalene #1 by Kristen Ashley. This book is 595 pages long. I loved this series. This one, you have a woman who, again, is older. Kristen Ashley does 30s, 40s, 50s main characters and love interests super well and all the time. Occasionally she'll have a book with the main couple in their 20s, but that is the exception rather than the rule. Almost all of her main characters are going to be older, which I love. But so she's like a fashionista, she's traveled the world, and her grandmother died, and so she has to go home for the funeral. She didn't grow up there, I don't think. Maybe she did. But I think she doesn't have a relationship with her parents, or they're dead or something. Her grandma was extremely important to her. And so she goes back for the funeral and the reading of the will. And in the reading of the will, her grandmother leaves her all of her things. And she leaves her to this man who has been kind of adopted by her grandma. He and his kids have been in her grandma's life, but in all the times that she's come to visit, she's never met him or his kids or had her grandma, I don't think, even talk about them. And she's just very confused. Her grandma was brilliant and loving and caring, and she doesn't understand why she would do this. And again, things did not start off great between them. He has an altercation with his teenage daughter, and she's just like... And some assumptions are made. He is a strip club owner, and some assumptions are made there. And so things are not going smoothly until they do. And there was like this very sleazy guy who's trying to also get with her. And I love this series so much. The other books are also so good. I can't even tell you, okay? Single Dad. It's just... it's so good. It's so good. Again, I could not tell you what the content warnings are specifically for this book, but I'm sure there are some. I simply don't remember. Next, I have The Winter King, which is Weathermages of Mystral #1 by C.L. Wilson. and is 594 pages. So this is only 1 page less than The Will. This is a fantasy romance series. There are only 2 books out in it, and is about these different princesses. Their dad is really controlling, and the youngest daughter killed her mother in childbirth, right? Because maternal mortality rates is a thing, and you shouldn't be forced to have babies, but I digress. So because of that, the father, the king, kind of hates her. He doesn't have anything to do with her. She is just left to run wild and is not really part of the royal family. Her sisters do really care about her. They are the shining jewels of the country, yada, yada, yada. And there's this big war or something. And they are basically the summer court, and the winter court is coming to get a princess. And he's expecting one of the jewels, and the king is like, you're not gonna manipulate me. I'm gonna give you the daughter I don't even want. And then she is whipped before the journey. I do remember that. So be aware of that. And of course he doesn't know. So because she's basically like, yeah, I'm not marrying him. And so they beat her into submission. And her sisters, like I said, do really care about her, but they also don't have any power to stop the marriage. It's enemies to lovers. The king is maybe not as caring as he should be. The princess is unloved and unwanted in the sunshine, and you're just like, oh my god, can somebody care about this poor girl? At least that was my reaction. And there's lots of magic and lots of, you know, plots happening, and it was really good. The second book traumatized me, and like the other books never came out, so know that, but they were really good. They were really good. And she has this other series that I read the first book of, and it was like, this is stressful because you can see the plotting of the enemy, and you can see like what they're doing and how nobody knows about it, and you're just like, oh my god, they're gonna win. So that was stressful for me, so I think I gave that book 5 stars and then didn't read anymore, which I've been known to do. Yeah, if you like fantasy romance, good author, good series, oldie but a goodie. Next I have By a Thread by Lucy Score, and I did not realize how long this book was until I was looking at Goodreads. It's 582 pages. This is a contemporary enemies to lovers, boss, grumpy sunshine book. She's really poor and won't take a sandwich, and you just kind of want to beat her and be like, you need help. You need help. This independence thing is not working out for you. This is a trauma response. You need to accept help, which it takes her a long time to do. He's also very rich. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the money, which means that if he gives you the money, it's literally no big deal. It costs him nothing. It is no skin off his nose. You desperately need the money. You need the money. You need help. You are drowning. And he's throwing you a lifeline while he eats a sandwich. Like, he doesn't, it's not even stressful for him. Could you just take the money? I remember these feelings. But I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it. There were a bunch of different things, including like a 3rd act breakup, where I was just like, normally I would be hating this, but for some reason I just really like this book. Another thing that was in this book that I would not have read it if I had known it, but was accurate and sad but beautiful representation is dementia in a family member. Her dad has dementia, and that is the source of a lot of her struggles, is paying for his care and paying for all these things that weren't supposed to be. He doesn't recognize her. He does hit her at one point, which is not something he ever would have done. You know, he's fighting the nurses, things like that. And if you have any experience, I'm gonna tear up. I do have experience with this. This is a trauma for me. Yeah, that part of the book was really moving and really accurate, and the romance itself was really beautiful, but be aware of that in it. All right, drink some juice, get our acts together. I don't know about you, but it really helps my emotions if I get my blood sugar up a little bit. Lastly, another fantasy romance, and this is A Heart of Blood and Ashes, which is The Gathering of Dragons, #1 by Milla Vane. I've probably recommended this book by far the most on this list. It's 555 pages, is my current favorite fantasy romance series. This is, again, enemies to lovers, and it is a princess who has been locked in a tower. She is disabled. She is incredibly smart, and her mother actually had like the gift of sight, and so she was able to tell her daughter about the world while they were both locked in this tower. Their country is a matriarchy. The queen was supposed to rule. The princess is supposed to rule. Her people don't even know the princess exists. And the queen was poisoned and imprisoned by her husband. She was also repeatedly raped by her husband. The love interest mother was raped, so there's quite a bit of talk about that, even though the main character herself does not suffer that, so be aware. Also, if you don't like alpha holes, you're not gonna like this book. Okay, he's gonna cross several lines that you're like, oh, I don't know about that. I personally did feel like it made sense for the character, it made sense for the society, the way that he viewed her and the things that he thought about her. And also, I felt like he eventually did make up for it. It worked out for me, but it might not for you. So she's been locked in a tower her whole life, and his parents were killed by her dad. He's a general. He is used to seeing a problem and fixing it. But the ruling council of the country says, no, your parents broke the truce. The kill was justified. If you do anything, the entire weight of the alliance is going to come down on you, and we're going to wipe your people out. So he has to let it go. He doesn't have a choice, and he's mad. Justifiably so. Through a series of events, he gets the idea to take this princess who is traveling. And so he does, and some sexy times basically occur right away, even though they hate each other. So there is definitely some hate reaction. Now, she does not hate him. She does not hate him. In fact, she thinks that he would be a great husband. Her mother has told her about him. He actively thinks that she lured his parents to their death, and he wants to kill her. But she is really smart and really good with manipulating people. Love it, love it. And she talks him into, look, I didn't kill your parents. And if you kill me, it's not going to hurt my dad at all. You would actually be clearing the way for him to be on the throne forever. So I want to rule my country, and I want to have an heir. So if you could give me a baby, that would be great. And she's like, I want to be married to you, but I don't have to be. And his people, the worst thing that you can be is a liar. So when she says that she didn't, lure his parents to their death, he thinks that she's a liar, and he treats her accordingly. He treats her very badly. But I forget what it is where he's like, maybe I will marry you, but maybe I'll kill you. But whatever it is, his people do not condone abuse. They don't tolerate it. So if you're going to marry this woman, you have to treat her right, or you're going to lose the respect of your people. And so at some point he realizes, like, I either need to kill her or I need to treat her better, because one of these things is not working out. And he's really attracted to her. He really likes everything about her, except, the point that she killed his parents and is a liar. So this is a travel journey. There's a lot of traveling. Just be aware of that. The last 150 pages of this book, dynamite. You're like, oh my god, oh my god. The previous part I really enjoyed, but some people might find it a bit slow. There are content warnings for animal death, miscarriage, mistreatment, all sorts of things, so do be aware of that. But whew. Also, the gods are involved. There's a demon, a conqueror who wiped out the world once and is coming back, and they need to figure stuff out. She is the best, especially because he treats her horribly, right? And then at some point she's over him, and he's now in love with her, and she's like, you are not the man that I thought you were. You're not worthy of me. And he has to work, he has to grovel to get back up to where he could have been if he just hadn't been an idiot. So know that if you like groveling, this is a pretty good one. And then he does this thing he does this thing where I was so mad at him. I was like, oh my God. And she chews him out. She makes him feel like a worm. And it was great. So, I mean, I don't know. Does any of that sound good to you? I'm telling you, this is steamy, full-on fantasy romance with just main characters that I adored. So, read it. If you don't like fantasy romance, then don't. But if you love your fantasy and you haven't picked up this series yet, I just beg of you to know why, because it is the best. So know that. Those are my favorite books, my favorite romances, over 500 pages. What's like the longest romance that you love? Do you think that any romance should be over 500 pages? Or even what's a romance that you were just like, I don't want this book to end. I just want to keep reading it and for it to keep going. Let me know. I'd love to hear those recommendations. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.